Music is something that carries emotion, carries passion, can carry a message. It's a beautiful language. I was always interested in sounds and textures and music that made you feel something. That passion started to grow from a very young age. And I remember going to a festival we have here called Greenbelt, which is a big arts festival, to see the full-on professional setups. It was just like and it was there, it was like, right, I just want to be in music. And I remember in school we used to have career days, and I always used to just music. I want to be in studios. And they're like, oh, Andy, you've got to think wider than that. You know, that's a hard job to get into, you know. Just to get the teachers off my back, it was like, okay, I'll be a gardener. I like the outdoors, so I'll be a gardener. Oh, great, yeah, we can see a career in that, sort of, that's good, Andy, you know. But really, it was like music for me. Hold on. I was with this band that was just a local band. We did gigs in churches and stuff. I met someone at a gig who was like, oh, I work for a production company. We're always looking for people. Do you fancy coming for an interview? I'm about 17 now, so I turned up at 10. I ended up making everyone like teas and coffees in the warehouse while I was waiting for my interview. And then finally the boss guy turns up at like 1 in the afternoon. So I think he'd forgot I was coming in. Come with me on this gig, we'll interview you on this gig. So the interview basically was loading this truck full of PA equipment, massive speakers. I was just like, We went off to Birmingham to do this all-night rave. So my interview went in at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I finally got home, I think at 7 a.m. the next morning. That was my interview, and he was like, cool, yeah, just come back. And for a year I basically was working with a production company, soldering mic leads, painting speakers, fixing speakers, being a roadie. I absolutely loved it because it was something to do with music. I was kind of dragged to church, if you like. We went to church. It was kind of the done thing in the UK. Really, it wasn't until I was a young teenager, maybe about 13, that I started to really understand what actually being a Christian was, what that became real to me. This Jesus character was an amazing, kind of crazy guy. And I just liked Jesus. So back then, faith became something very important, the most important thing, really running through the centre of what I did. There was always this desire of just wanting to live my life the way I thought God wanted me to live. In everything I do, that hopefully that permeates through what I was doing. And there was always this desire of becoming a DJ. We set up a youth work in our local area just outside of Bristol, just wanting to help out kids on the street. We actually set up a club night, sort of once a month for under 18s, because at the time they were all into jungle and happy hardcore, which is like dance music, but like 160 BPM, like sped up vocals, like horrible stuff. So this kind of gave me the excuse of buying some turntables, collecting vinyl, and DJing at this club night we put on for some of the street kids, for the under 18s. We weren't overtly preaching at these club nights, but they were interested in what we believed and our faith, and some of those young people made commitments. And suddenly at that time it seemed funny that now these young people became Christians, that we'd suddenly get the guitar out and I don't know, sing the latest Martin Smith Delirious song. Because to them that just wouldn't relate. It'd be totally alien. That's sort of just within church culture that we've made this, that really only Christians kind of know of, really. I think it's sad in a way, because I think it stops us from being creatives, and it narrows the box that this is what worship is. I love dance music, and these young people like dance music. Why can we not just sort of worship and express our faith and our prayers through the music that we love? So we just started to experiment with me leading worship as a DJ. I'd have a microphone, and it may be we'd focus on a certain verse from the Bible, pray out of that over a bit of music. So it's almost like I provided the soundtrack. Some of the young people were MCs and rappers, and they just kind of MC over the music, some of their own lyrics that they'd written in their response to God, and it really did work. It was fab. So I moved here from the youth organisation down in Bristol. It was like, right, I'm going to give music 3 years of my full intention to see if I get anywhere. I was asked to go over to America. They have a thing called Worship Together, and they were like, can you come and do your thing? Because we've heard that you lead worship as a DJ. I was like, yeah, sure, okay. So I got there, and they'd put me on the Saturday morning. DJs on the morning, you know, it's a night thing really. So I was really nervous, like, what am I doing here? These weren't kids, these were worship leaders from across America. But there was a worship leader there, a guy called David Roos. He's a real oddball too. So he's like, oh, come and be part of my band, and you can do some scratching and drop some beats. Then I'm gonna talk, and then you can do something off the back of this on this morning. I was like, oh yeah, sounds brilliant. So he was totally open to it. But what was happening at the time was the head of an EMI company called Sparrow Records, which was one of the biggest Christian labels apparently in America. I'd never heard of it. Apparently they'd been looking to sign a DJ. He was saying, you know, we'd like to sign you and we'd like to make a record. And so in one sense, this was my dreams come true, like making an album. But I was a bit torn because I didn't want to be signed to a Christian label. I don't like that separation. I don't like this is Christian music, this is non-Christian music. I hate that. Music is music. My music carries my inspirations and what I bring to it, which is a lot of it is my faith, you know. And so I don't like this separation. I was like, no, I don't want to just play to churches and be part of this industry that's just separated. And I think for the first time in my whole life, it's the first time I really felt that I heard from God in terms of direction. But I wasn't going to sign this record contract. And I just felt God say, you know, the doors I open, I want you to go through. And this is a door that I've opened. And I'm bigger than the Christian scene. And I'm bigger than the music industry. So I just felt, right, I'm going to sign. So I signed to Sparrow. And it was brilliant. We made the Exodus album, which was my first record. Some of the tracks signed to some of the big films at the time, An Italian Job and Tomb Raider, and at that time they were just picking up a track off the album, and then sure enough Exodus took off. Matrix Reloaded came out, and for the trailer they used my music, which for me would never have happened if I'd just stayed here and not signed. But it was such good confirmation to what I felt about signing to the label that it was, you know, it was like, oh, thank you, Lord. It was just like amazing. The news of that obviously opened up stuff around the world. I ended up touring with Tiesto and around some of the biggest clubs in North America. The worship side as well, people would invite me, not just to lead worship, but also to unpack what worship was and looking at the arts within church, really. There's all these amazing gifts that God has given us that reflect something of God's character that is not seen in the church, because we've made this culture of we sing these songs together that sound the same as the last one, and that's what sells. I love the church and I love being part of the church. It's just they should be expressing themselves in their own worship and helping us to worship. That's my passion, that's my heart, is for something to bring a depth to it, and that's what I'm trying to create in this little room, is music that carries a bit of soul and a bit of me and a bit of what I'm inspired by. My faith is at the heart of who I am, and also my expression of faith is through the art, and my art is music. I wouldn't say I'm a gifted musician. I have to work hard. I need to make sure find the keys that unlock my creativity. So for me, it's chilling out, listening to music, just reflecting with the Bible, or it's going out for a run, or it's going out for a walk. You know, it's these things that you find that unlock your creativity. And if you're not doing those in your life, then you're not going to be productive, you're not going to be creating. But I started to think, how do I make a project that causes someone to take time out and not just ask God a list of questions, but to reflect, to think about things, to be inspired, so that they can go and create, or they can just have that healthy time out. So I came up with the idea of this Presence app, and bring artists together, find film guys and then poetry, to do what they do, inspired from these verses, and call it Presence. And they sometimes just come from a completely different angle that I haven't seen, and that makes you think in a different way, and I've not seen it like that, and it just helps your thoughts. But creatively trying to encourage other artists within the church and outside the church, just let's create, but in our expression to God. And hopefully my music can help people journey into their times with God, and it just has that moment. That's what I hope.
Meet me, hear me, see me standing barefoot on sacred ground. Who am I to know you? You who spread water on ground and hovered there, holy.
For Presence Live, I think it's a similar experience, hopefully, to the app. So the way it ebbs and flows is running sort of through these verses from the Bible, with the soundtrack and the music, and then the poetry sort of weaving in and out. And it's hopefully just creating space for people to pray and to think about that verse that's shown as well on the visuals, without someone just stood at the front going, now we're going to pray about this, or now we're going to sing this song. Because sometimes in that dynamic there's no room to think about things, or there's no room to pray because you're singing a song or you're being told what to do. Mindfulness is very fashionable at the moment, it's very trendy, but it's good for us to do that, because we're so busy, and it's important, I think, for everyone to have those moments in our life, because it gives us energy and it gives us that space. Church should be a living, breathing thing. Worship needs to be an expression of our faith. It's not just about music. We all carry something of God's personality in us, and we're all completely different. So it shows that God is so big and so is into everything. And it may be something that you've never seen before in your church, in your lives. It may be something completely like what you think is crazy. But if you've got a passion and a heart for that, to express yourself that way to God, then you should just go for it. When we create out of those special moments, it's not just a shallow experience, but it brings a real depth that speaks to other people as well. Hi, this is Andy Hunter, and you're watching This Is Me TV.
to let go.